who's present. Thank you. Welcome to the members and to staff and guests for the May 11th meeting of the Dormitory Authority Board. It's a beautiful day in New York City. I don't know where everybody is, but it's kind of a good day to be alive. I'm feeling pleased about. There are a lot of issues. The future is not clear in many respects, but it's a nice day. Just sort of parsing it that way, it's fabulous. We are in various locations, and we have various folk with us. It's necessary that Sarah read into the record notices for the meeting, and then call the roll. Sarah, if you will.
Okay, good morning, everyone. We are meeting as allowed via Zoom today. And this is, we do have a quorum for this meeting, and we can proceed in this manner. The New York City conference room was noticed as being open to the public. So we have with us today for board members, our chair, Al Carney, Jerry Romsky, Joan Sullivan, John Snyder, Beryl Snyder, Ken Evans, Phyllis Morris, and believe that's it for board members. If there's any others, I know there's a couple of phone numbers on there. You can let us know that you're here. Wellington Chen is absent today. For DASNY staff,
I'm here as well.
Oh, John, I'm sorry. I have you written down and I missed you. I apologize. Hi, John. John Gardner, our audit committee chair. Ruben McDaniel, Paul Koopman, Portia Lee, Kim Ellis, Steve Curro, Nadine Fontaine, Ricardo Salomon, Dina Amodio, Dave Ostrander, Kathy Ebert, Karen Ellinger, Mike Logan, Dwight Flynn, Jenna Flinton, Jeffrey Gordon, Craig Schreivogel, Alex Sardine, Nick Pallas, Deb Fasser, Amanda Nazario, and myself from DASNY. And Adrian Swizerski has just joined us. He's coming on right now. So yeah, we have everyone here for board members except for John Johnson and Wellington. From Bond Council, we have Chris Reitzel. From Nixon, Doug Seaton, D. Seaton and Associates, Eileen Heitzler and Damon Pace from Oric, Gabriel Marouse from Marouse Law Group. We have Will Brewster and Barbara Scudder Pritchard that are with us. And then we have several phone numbers. Not sure if they're members of the public or if they are other council, but if anyone other than those that I've read would like to let us know who's here, please feel free to do so. Otherwise, Mr. Chair, you may continue with the meeting.
Sir, we also have Valerie Chmielewski here in the New York City office.
Okay, great, thank you. And Valerie is with our council's office.
A couple of comments before we start. I often forget to thank Bond Council for taking the time to sit with us and walk us through the intricacies of the legal aspects of what it means to issue. There are some terrifically gifted people on this call, and I don't pay enough attention to that on the record, but I want you all to know that these men and women are folk who have worked for us for a time. They get it. They work easily with our staff for the most part, and we are grateful to have them. So thank you all. This is a Bond Council. Thank you. Thank you for being with us today. And I know that Ricardo and Nadine work awfully hard, and Dana work awfully hard to make sure that Bond Council are where they need to be when they need to be there, with the smarts that they have to do what they do. Thank you all very much for all of that. All right, unless there's something else I need to address, we'll get to the minutes of the April 6th meeting. I have asked Sarah to revise those minutes to reflect the names and positions of the people who are affected by this, by the appointments. Are there any questions about the minutes? Any proposed revisions? Anybody interested in making that look different? Hearing no objections and hearing no additions, may I have a motion, please, to approve the minutes?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
I'm sorry, who moved? I know you seconded, Joan. Thank you.
I did.
Who moved?
I did.
Thank you, Jerry. Thanks very much. All in favor, please indicate with aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Are there any abstentions? Hearing none, the motion is approved. The minutes, the minutes are approved unanimously. Thank you. Mr. Finance Committee Chair, Staromsky,
Thank you,
you have the next
Chair.
agenda.
Thank you. Finance met yesterday by Zoom. After adopting the meeting minutes from the April committee meeting, we advanced and discussed two offerings, Barnard College and Memorial Sloan Kettering. After an excellent presentation, or presentations, one by Alex, it was his first presentation in finance. We discussed them and agreed to recommend that they both be approved at today's board meeting. And that concludes my report, Mr. Chair, unless anyone has any questions or concerns. Thank you.
Questions for the Finance Committee Chair? Hearing none, the next agenda item is a single approval at Barnard College. We welcome Alex Sirdine to the table, his first presentation to the board. Alex, really excited about having you with us. It represents a number of changes for DASNY. Thank you very much for doing what you're doing for us. Have at it, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, everyone. The board is being asked to authorize the issuance of one or more series of tax-exempt and/or taxable fixed and/or variable rate bonds with a maturity not to exceed 30 years in an amount not to exceed $150 million on behalf of Barnard College. The proceeds from the Series 2022 bonds are expected to be used to refund and restructure the DASNY Barnard College Series 2015A bonds in anticipation of a new money issuance in 2023, and to refund the Series 2020B variable rate bonds with fixed rate bonds. Currently, the restructuring portion is being sought to provide the college with debt service relief of approximately $3 million annually between fiscal years 2024 and 2028, approximately $15 million over the 5-year period. This is in anticipation of a new money transaction being contemplated by Barnard to occur in fiscal year 2023. It is expected that the 5 years of debt service for the new money transaction will equal the amount of debt service being reduced through this restructuring. This transaction enables the college to issue the new money debt in 2023 with no increase in debt service between 2024 and 2028, while also leveling out the college's aggregate debt service and all outstanding debt. The principal on the proposed refunding is anticipated to mature between 2034 and 2039. This restructuring is not expected to produce savings on a net present value basis. The 2023 new money issuance is expected to be brought to the board for approval at a later date, will provide for a full renovation and expansion of the college's science building, Alshot Hall, to enhance STEM education. While proceeds from the DASNY 2020 issuance provided funding for design and upfront enabling work, proceeds from the 2023 issuance are expected to finance the expansion of Alshot Hall, increasing the size of the facility from 118,000 square feet to 175,000 square feet, and providing additional space for new and existing science programs. The new facility will be renamed the Roy and Diana Vagila Center following the receipt of a $55 million donation, more than doubling the size of the largest donation in the college's history. The college intends to reduce its variable rate exposure by refunding the 2020B bonds with publicly offered fixed rate bonds. And in terms of security, it is anticipated that the loan agreement will be a general obligation of the college and no security interest in any revenues or assets of the college will be granted by the college to DASNY under the loan agreement. And some credit highlights for Barnard College. Applications have increased by approximately 35% over the last 5 years, from just over 7,700 applicants in fall 2017 to over 10,000 in the fall of 2021. Of this number, the college accepted approximately 1,200 applicants, or 11.5%. Total enrollment for fall 2021 was just over 3,000 students. Operating margins remain low or negative, mainly due to increased capital spending beginning in fiscal year 2019 and the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic in fiscal years 2020 and 2021. The college increased capital spending beginning in fiscal year 2019 to enhance its program offerings by investing in technology and the renovation/modernization of some of its facilities. In response to the COVID-19 pandemic, the college transitioned from in-person instruction to being fully remote in spring 2020 and returned to in-person/hybrid instruction in fall 2021. As a result, auxiliary revenues, which includes things like student housing, bookstores, dining halls, etc., declined by approximately 74% in fiscal year 2021. The college's financial resources have grown over 5 years. Total cash and investments increased by $127 million, or 33.6% over the 5-year period, and this was mainly due to investment gains and gifts. Barnard has a long-standing affiliation with Columbia University, which provides the college with a unique market advantage over its primary competitors. Although the college is fully independent from Columbia University, Barnard students can cross-enroll in Columbia classes, use Columbia facilities, and participate in the athletic consortium between the schools. The college is currently rated A2 by Moody's, and I will now turn it over to Chris and Douglas, who will describe the documents.
Christopher and Douglas, before you start, I stepped on the president's toes. He would have introduced Alex and the two of you. I was inspired. For the record, we have Christopher Reitzel of Dixon Peabody and Douglas Seaton of D. Seaton and Associates, who will now present at Alex's request. Sorry, Mr. President, please accept my apology.
Mr. Chairman, I have big feet, get stepped on, no problem.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for having us. And thank you, Mr. Chair, for the earlier remarks about your bond counsel. It was very nice to hear this morning, so thank you. In terms of documents before you for consideration is the adoption of 3 series resolutions authorizing individually and in the aggregate $150 million of DASNY's Barnard College revenue bonds. The authorized bonds are proposed to be issued under DASNY's Barnard College revenue bond resolution adopted in 2015, along with the series resolutions before you today. The proceeds of the authorized bonds are expected to be used to refund all or portion of the outstanding Barnard College revenue bonds Series 2015A and Series 2020B bonds. In order to provide flexibility for the college with respect to structure and timing, you're being asked to authorize the issuance of 3 series of tax-exempt and/or taxable bonds, which may be issued at 1 or more times. The current expectation is that a portion of the authorized bonds will be issued as tax-exempt, unenhanced fixed-rate bonds, and a portion of the authorized bonds will be issued as taxable unenhanced fixed-rate bonds. Also, if market conditions allow, additional authorized bonds may be issued in the future, which would be expected to also be taxable unenhanced fixed-rate bonds to advance refund certain of the remaining outstanding refunded bonds. The series resolutions, however, do not limit the discretion of DASNY's officers to determine to issue the authorized bonds in other configurations than are currently contemplated. The authorized bonds may be issued pursuant to public offering or private placement. Any publicly offered bonds would be sold in a negotiated sale to Goldman Sachs as lead underwriter. If any of the authorized bonds are sold pursuant to a private placement, the expectation is that Goldman Sachs would serve as placement agent. At this point, turn over to Douglas.
Thank you very much, Chris. The general resolution provides for the issuance from time to time of multiple series of bonds, each series separately secured from each other, except as otherwise provided in the applicable series resolution. The authorized bonds are special bonds of DASNY, payable solely out of revenues, which consist of the payments made by the college under the applicable loan agreement. Payment of the authorized bonds is secured by the pledge and assignment made by the general resolution of the revenues and the monies and investments held in the funds and accounts established by the general resolution and the series resolutions. The series resolutions delegate to various officers of DASNY the power to make the determinations described in our letter and to do all things necessary or convenient in connection with the sale and issuance of the bonds. DASNY and the college will execute a loan agreement in connection with each issuance of the authorized bonds, which will require the college to make timely payment of debt service on the applicable authorized bonds. The college's obligations to make payments under the loan agreement will be a general obligation. Consistent with DASNY guidelines and loan agreement will contain the appropriate standard document provisions and may include additional security provisions based on market conditions and practices. It is anticipated that any loan agreement will be an unsecured obligation of the college. In addition, the college will enter into an agreement to provide continuing disclosure in connection with the issuance of any publicly offered authorized bonds. Thank you very much for the opportunity to present today, and thank you very much for the kind words this morning. It is not often that you hear such glowing words in reference to bond counsel. So thank you very much for those kind words. And if there are any questions from anyone, Chris and I would be happy to answer them.
To the members of the board, are there any questions for Alex or for Douglas or for Christopher? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please, to approve the transaction?
I'll move. This is Beryl.
Beryl, thank you very much. Is there a
I'll
second?
second. Janice.
Janice, thank you very much. All in favor, please indicate with aye. Aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Are there any abstentions? Hearing none, the motion is approved. The transaction is approved unanimously. Thank you very much. Mr. President, I won't step on your toes anymore.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. No problem at all. Behind tab 5 is the Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center single approval transaction. The summary will be presented today by Portia Lee. We've got Elaine Heitzel of Warwick Harrington and Gabriel Maros of Maros Law Group. Just for the record, Matt Bergen, who would typically present here, is working on the school pool financing today, so he's not on. Portia's taking his place. Portia?
Thank you, Ruben. So the staff report provided to the members presents a 30-year term for bond issue in an amount not to exceed $500 million on behalf of Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center. As noted in the materials, the bonds may be issued in one or more series at one or more times. And the authorized bonds may be issued as fixed and or variable rate, as well as either tax exempt and or taxable bonds. The bonds may also be issued through a negotiated offering on a competitive basis and or a private placement. However, the current plan of finance calls for the Series 2022 bonds to be privately placed or directly purchased. The financing that you are considering this morning includes the following projects: the purchase of all or a portion of 2 office buildings in Manhattan to be used for academic and corporate office space, the purchase of residential units to be used for employee housing on Roosevelt Island in Manhattan, the funding of renovations, improvements, and equipment purchases at the Memorial Hospital for Cancer and Allied Diseases in Manhattan, and the funding of clinical improvements, including equipment purchases at its ambulatory care facilities in Manhattan. I did want to note that these are the projects or sub-projects that MSK has identified that they would like to spend the $500 million on. However, we do not get into the specific purchase prices for the real estate as Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center looks to borrow the $500 million and then spread it across these projects as they deem appropriate. The security features will include a general obligation of the Center Corporation, guarantees from Sloan Kettering Institute for Cancer Research, and SKI Realty. The expected ratings are AA- from S&P and AA from Fitch. For the year ended December 31st, 21, clinical volumes have increased compared to the same period in 2020 as patient activity started to recover from the COVID-19 outbreak. For 2021, the hospital reported increases in outpatient visits, increases in surgical cases, as well as admissions. Regarding MSK Cancer Center, this is a multi-billion-dollar corporation with over $14.9 billion in total assets, approximately $5.1 billion in total liabilities, and over $9.8 billion in total net assets. In 2021, total contributions raised through fundraising efforts were over $576 million. Mr. Chairman, I'll hand it over to Eileen and Gabriel now.
Thank you, Portia.
Thank you, Portia, and thank you, Mr. Chairman, for your kind words. I'll echo what everyone else said. It's been personally my privilege to work on DASNY transactions for most of my legal career, including the 01 and 03 MSK deals. So with that, I will switch to that. Or Carrington and
It's
Marissa
great.
Log-
It's great to have you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Or Carrington and Marissa Log's action. I will describe the plan of finance and security for the bonds. Gabriel will describe the proposed Series 2022 bonds. MSKCC has requested that DASNY issue bonds to finance all or portion of the cost of financing, improving, and or equipping of facilities for the delivery of patient care, research and education in cancer and allied diseases, or otherwise ancillary services and facilities related thereto, as Portia has just described. The bonds will be issued under a general resolution that was adopted by DASNY in 2003. It's expected that the bonds will bear fixed interest to their maturity dates, but they may also provide for MSKCC to direct the mandatory tender and change to a new interest rate mode on any date that they are subject to redemption. It's expected to begin 10 years after issuance. 3 series resolutions are proposed in order that there be flexibility for example, a series of bonds to be issued at different times, a taxable series of bonds, a series in a different mode, or a series that is separately offered if a separate series were to be advantageous. The proceeds will be lent to the Cancer Center pursuant to a 2003 loan agreement. That loan agreement provides that the obligations to make loan repayments and other payments are general obligations of the center. The center's obligations under the loan agreement are then secured by guarantees of payment by Sloan Kettering Institute for Cancer Research and SKI Realty, Inc., which are 2 not-for-profit corporations affiliated with the center, was referred to as the guarantors. In addition, Memorial Hospital executed an inducement agreement pursuant to which it agrees to be bound by certain provisions of the loan agreement that relate to it as an affiliate of the center. The loan agreement, the guarantees, the inducement agreement are currently unsecured obligations of the applicable parties. And I should note they were all entered into in 03 with the loan agreement. However, upon the occurrence of a funding event, certain collateral consisting of mortgages on certain property and a pledge of certain revenues is required to be provided for the joint benefit of the bonds issued under the 2003 resolution, taxable bond indentures under which MSKCC has issued bonds, and an indenture relating to some bonds issued by New Jersey Economic Development Authority. Actions of the trustees or holders of the various bonds are governed by an intercreditor agreement. With that, I will hand off to Gabriel, who described the terms of the bonds.
Thank you, Eileen.
Thank you, Eileen.
Thank you, Eileen. Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Mr. Chairman, again for your kind words earlier. The proposed series resolutions authorize the issuance of up to $500 million of authorized bonds under the Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center Revenue Bond resolution adopted in 2003. The 2003 General Resolution authorizes DASNY to issue multiple series of bonds for an unlimited amount to help the center finance or refinance the cost of one or more projects. As per the center's request, we request that DASNY adopt 3 series resolutions. Each series resolution authorizes bonds to be issued to the public through either a negotiated sale to the underwriters or a direct sale to one or more investors at one or more times in a limited or private placement on terms negotiated directly with the purchasers. It is currently expected that the bonds will be sold through a direct purchase or private placement to financial institutions or institutional investors, and therefore no official statement will be prepared. Each series resolution authorizes the bonds to be issued as fixed rate or variable rate, as tax exempt or taxable, and with or without credit enhancement. Currently, the bonds are expected to be issued in at least one tax exempt series and one taxable series, all bearing interest at fixed rates to maturity. In addition, each series resolution delegates to the various officers of the authority the power to determine the terms of the bonds, including but not limited to the principal amount not to exceed $500 million, the maturity of the bonds not to be later than 30 years from the July 1 next following their date of issuance, whether the bonds bear interest at fixed rates or variable rates, whether the bonds are option bonds, and the provisions regarding tender for purchase, whether the bonds are tax exempt or taxable, whether the bonds are sold at a public or private sale. Each series resolution also authorizes various officers of the authority to prepare, execute, and deliver all related documents, including but not limited to preliminary and final official statements, bond purchase agreements, and notices of sale. With that, we welcome your questions, if any.
Thank you, Gabriel. Thank you very much. To the members, are there questions for Portia, for Eileen, and or for Gabriel? I do have one question. It's actually for the record. Matt and I have discussed this. There is an element of the transaction that I thought was a bit unusual. I don't have an issue with it, but I'm curious. 104 residential units to be used for employee housing on Roosevelt Island in Manhattan. Is that something that we see, that we can expect to see? I don't know where it fits in the general scheme of things. And it's not a question for you, Gabriel. It's actually a question for Portia.
I think this is something that MSKCC feels is important for its purposes. As you know, it's a big institution and it's a big employer, and it's something that they feel is critical to their ongoing operations.
And I, as I said, I have no issue with it. I mean, MSK is clearly in the real estate business in Manhattan, now on Roosevelt Island. I have no issue with it at all. It's just, I hadn't seen it before, Portia, and I was curious about it. Thank you. All right, hearing no questions, may I have a motion, please, to approve the transaction?
Make the motion.
I'll move.
Thank you very much, Beryl. Thank you. I was beginning to be a bit afraid. Is there a second?
I'll second. It's Joan.
Joan, thank you so much. All in favor, please indicate with aye.
Aye.
Aye. Are there any opposed? Are there any abstentions? Hearing no response, the motion is approved. The transaction is approved unanimously. Mr. President, I think you are next on the agenda. Oh, no, I'm sorry. It's the Audit Committee presentation. Chairman Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Audit Committee met yesterday. I won't go into the detail we went into yesterday, but yesterday was Kathy's last Audit Committee meeting. Today is Kathy's last board meeting. We sang her praises. I think Kathy's been with DASNY for 13 years. She and I have worked together on the Audit Committee for approximately 6. She is leaving us with a strong department. We will be fine, but we will miss her. We heard a report from Karen Ellinger on internal controls. Kathy reviewed the internal audit plan, and she also updated us on the ongoing new audit plan. The audit committee approved such plan. And unless there are questions, that is my report.
For the members, are there questions for John or for Kathy, whom I believe is on the phone? Kathy, you there?
Yes, I'm here. Sorry, I was looking for the mute button. I'm here, Al. Thank you.
Terrific. Are there questions for John or Kathy? Or for Karen, actually? A couple of comments then before we move to the president's report. We've had the good fortune of having somebody who was in charge of this department who moved the needle significantly. This department has grown enormously in the time that Kathy has run it. We were fortunate to have her. I have said, you all heard me say this, I've never been an internal auditor, but I've been the lawyer for several internal auditors of large companies. And I can tell you that it is a thankless function. People do not warm up to internal auditors. They have a job to do, they get it done. Kathy used her CPA to make the machine hum, and we were very fortunate to have had her in it. Going forward, we hope that Kathy will have trained the person who will succeed her. That person has not yet been determined or announced, but we will keep our fingers crossed and hope that that person has what John Gardner calls Kathy's mettle. Kathy gets it, and whoever will benefit from her experience and her horsepower in the next phase of her career, those people will be very fortunate. Kathy, it's been a pleasure working with you. I want the record to reflect clearly that we will miss you. Gardner has already made the point. I reiterate, good luck to you in your future, and don't hesitate to call us if you need us for anything. Take care of yourself.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, Mr. President, I think you are next at bat.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's good to see everyone today. Hope all is well as we head into spring. We did get a state budget passed in April 9th. The $220 billion budget has some nice nuggets in it for DASNY. Importantly, we were able to extend our design build authority, which is important for our construction division going forward, and also our ability to create subsidiaries. On the financial side, this budget overall had a very large healthcare component to it. The governor really is committed to a healthcare transformation in the state of New York. We will be the beneficiary of some of that work with DOH and OMH doing additional projects. The plan was about a $1.6 billion plan, and some of that work will come through DASNY, so glad to see that. There was also a new grant program announced. It's called the Community Resilience Economic Sustainability and Tech Grants, or CREST, for those of you who are into acronyms, a $385 million grant program that will also be administered by DASNY. It'll probably take the next 9 to 12 months to get that program up and running, but that will come through DASNY, so additional program there. 2 smaller grant programs were approved, a nonprofit infrastructure grant program for $50 million, and a higher education facilities capital matching grant program for $45 million, and additionally about 2.2 of the SAM grants, the Senate grants, excuse me, it's not SAM, that's Senate grants, the state and municipal grants were also approved. So a lot of good work on the grant side came out of the budget. We're pleased with that. And again, on the healthcare side, we should get some of that infrastructure work over the next couple of years. That is good as well. Finally, we were successful in getting the social equity cannabis investment fund passed through the budget, a $200 million fund, which will help the state stand up social equity applicants on the retail dispensary side for legalized adult use cannabis. We will be charged with assisting in the location and build out of 150 approximately facilities of about $200 million. The RFP for the fund manager should go out today. The RFP for design build firms will go out by the end of the week, and we will begin that process. It will be a really heavy process over the next year with the target of having the first ribbon cuttings in the end of 22 the last ribbon cuttings, first, second quarter of 23. So working very hard on that. The board will have several action items that they will have to agree to and approve. What we'll be doing over the month of May is sending you some documentation on the various action items and also making staff available for general discussion. And at the June board meeting, we will have more substantive requirements from the board's perspective around approvals and such. But it will be an ongoing dialogue around the Office of Cannabis Management and our role there. Again, our role is right down our sweet spot of assisting with finance and construction. All of the selection of licensees and other things are being done by the Office of Cannabis Management as is appropriate. And then finally, I just want to highlight.
Do they do the, who does the picking of the locations? That's the cannabis board, right? Or that is.
Yeah, so we are assisting with the location selection process, but the Office of Cannabis Management will then make the final decision on the selection. So our real property group, Jim Lapoli has been fantastic. He and his group have already begun the work on identifying locations. They will then present to OCM recommendations, but OCM makes the final decisions.
Mr. President, may I make a couple of comments to the board? This is a new facet of DASNY's development, DASNY's future. It's important that the board members give this new facet their undivided attention. This is an opportunity for board members to pick up the phone and call the president of DASNY to talk to him about your questions. And you should have some. I would be surprised if you do not have questions about DASNY's future with regard to the Office of Cannabis Management. Do not hesitate to call Ruben. He expects your calls. He welcomes your calls. I'm speaking for him now. Ruben, I apologize. I don't know. but this is not.
Oh, you did assume.
This is not the time to be shy with regard to raising questions about DASNY's development, DASNY's role with the Office of Cannabis Management in the development of this new economy. Please, please take the time to do that because it's not okay, members, to hear later that you didn't get questions that you needed to have answered. Ruben is prepared. He and I have had long conversations. Ricardo and I have had conversations. Paul was a part of those conversations. Trust me, they are prepared to answer your questions. Do not hesitate to ask. Sorry, Ruben.
No, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do appreciate that, and I do encourage all board members. Again, we'll be sending information, providing you as much guidance as possible for your decision process. But even if you have just general questions about the program, about what's going on with OCM, our relationship with OCM, please let us know. Nadine and Ricardo have been very involved, along with other lawyers in our group. Jim Lapoli and his team on the real estate side. Paul on the operations side has been very helpful. Steve Kerr on his group on the construction side. So we have a wealth of knowledge, and it really is an exciting program to get some new program on the table. Finally, we've talked several board meetings over the years actually about the $750 million lab program, the consolidated lab in Albany. Thankfully, through this budget process, we have now gotten the green light to move forward with that program. And so the first step is that our design build team will spend some time and energy on reconfiguring and reimagining the scope of work. And then we will begin in earnest getting that project underway. But a big project for DASNY, a great win for us. I'm sure Steve will have some things to say about it in his report. Then finally, just on the COVID front, obviously numbers have ticked up. We're trying to be very careful and COVID friendly. But having said that, we're trying to organize an outdoor ethnic festival of food for the DASNY family sometime in the June timeframe, so we can all kind of start getting together and feeling a little more normal about life. So really looking forward to that, excited about that, and I'll send you all a note on that. That's my report, Mr. Chairman. We can now go on to the department reports.
Well, let's ask whether or not there are any questions, Mr. President. Do the members have questions for Ruben? It was a very comprehensive report, Ruben. Thank you very much. You covered a lot of ground and you did quickly. Thank you. Do the members have questions for Ruben? Okay, Portia, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Included in the members' materials are the standard public finance reports. Since the last board meeting, we priced and closed Wagner College. We completed the St. John's private placement forward delivery. We also priced Northwell yesterday, and we're in the market today with school districts. We priced these deals in a very volatile market. We discussed this at the last board meeting. As you know, the Fed raised rates 50 basis points last week. The Fed chairman signaled that policymakers are not actively considering 75 basis point rate hikes. The market is currently expecting a 50 basis point rate hike in June as well as July as the Fed continues to grapple with inflation. We're keeping in touch with our clients regarding the fundings as we all monitor savings. And having said that, with rates rising, we think that clients with capital projects on the horizon will likely want to access the capital markets given the projections for the expected rate hikes in the future. Regarding volume, year-to-date volume for 2022 is approximately $138.7 billion, down 8.3% from last year's at this time. Total supply for the week is expected to be heavier than recent averages at about 10.8 billion. Tax-exempt bond yields were unchanged on Tuesday, with the 10-year AAA MMD flat at 2.88% and the 30-year holding steady at 3.21%. U.S. government bond yields were lower, with both the 10-year and the 30-year Treasury yields decreasing by 9 basis points to 2.99% and 3.13% respectively. Municipal bond flows reported outflows for the week ending May 4th, after reporting outflows for the week previous to that. Since the April 6th board meeting, the 1-year MMD rate has increased by 40 basis points, the 10-year by 68 basis points, and the 30-year by 66 basis points. In that same time period, the 10-year Treasury yield has increased by 45 basis points, and the 30-year by 56 basis points. A few other updates I wanted to make the board aware of. Moody's upgraded New York State's issuer rating and the ratings on general obligation PIT and sales tax bonds to AA1 from AA2. The rating upgrade commentary reflected increases in resources, agile management, expanded reserves, reduction in certain liabilities, and strong governance. Also included in your materials is a bond sales summary, including performance metrics. That concludes my report. Thank you.
Are there questions for Portia? Portia,
yeah.
Please, Beryl, go ahead.
First of all, I just note the very steep beginning of the curve, and as the flattening as it goes out more. I suppose that is, I mean, how do you interpret that as far as our own deal demand? And are you seeing the increased deal flow, at least in the preliminary phases, that would reflect people's fear of rising interest rates and wanting to lock in at more favorable rates? I mean, I noticed just a little bit like entities increasing the amount of their borrowing or expecting school districts to join in the larger financing for those kind of reasons. But are you seeing more work coming in the first half of the year?
Yeah, I think that's right, Beryl. You know, I think we're hearing from clients, you know, if they've got capital projects that are on their horizon, that, you know, they want to get into the market, they want to lock in rates as you've observed. You know, at the same time, with rates rising, we obviously have to watch what's happening on the refunding side, because, you know, some of the clients also have refundings and want to, you know, just keep on top of that to see that they're in the money. But I think your observation is correct in terms of people wanting to lock in rates as rates are rising. You know, as to, you know, what's happening with the yield curve, you know, I think we're seeing more retail interest. So that's, you know, that's been a good thing, just in terms of that, you know, kind of really more robust interest from retail investors, which is always a good thing in terms of pricing.
Good. That is very good. I think as people leave equities for fear of the volatility they come to municipal bonds because it is, though volatile, more volatile than previous years, it is certainly less volatile than the equity market. So, I mean, if there's, speaking just as a regular old board member, if there's more deals in the pipeline and you need us to, you know, amp up our work from the approval of financing end, I think that speaking on behalf of myself and probably others, we're ready, anxious, and able to move quickly if we need to.
Carol, thank you. I think we really appreciate that. Certainly the clients appreciate that. You know, I think historically the board has been really very good and very accommodating, you know, when market forces dictate. So again, very much appreciated.
And Beryl and Portia, I just want to note that in our school pool financing, I'm actually looking at the pricing now. We had a big retail turnout yesterday, about 300 million, 250 or so. So that was helpful. The shorter end of the loan has done very well, but quite frankly, the longer end of the loan has been struggling a little bit as investors don't really show their hand yet. We've had some good demand out in the 2051 maturity, but you know, 35 through 42 are going fairly slow. I think that's kind of the state we see in the market is that, you know, people are interested from an investor perspective on the short end, but a lot of people are still, you know, holding back to see where rates go. And we see a lot of SMSAs coming in, but some of the institutional investors seem to be, you know, really more strategic when they come in, many more outflows than we've seen before. And that has certainly been indicated in the market as well. So we've got about 45 minutes left. Out of our $745 million, we need to do about another 185 million. So Beryl, if you could put your order in, we would appreciate it.
I would if I could. I never do that, as you know. So no, that is, it's just because of the volatility, even in fixed income, it's a very interesting time to watch. And I'm glad that DASNY, I'm glad the rating's up, and I'm glad that we're really stepping up to the plate. And good job by everyone, really.
Okay, thanks, bro.
Other questions or comments for Portia or Ruben in this case? Hearing none, Mr. President, where do we go from here?
Let's go to Mr. Curl.
Well, wait. Kim Ellis, is she there?
Kim Ellis, I'm sorry. Yeah, let's go to Kim.
I just saw it.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Ruben. The monthly financial report included in your materials represents preliminary results for the fiscal year end, as staff are still booking entries to allocate expenses and book accruals. More detailed information on the financial results for the fiscal year will be provided in connection with the audit financial statements at the June meeting. A brief update on year-end audit progress. Staff are working diligently to make sure we meet all deadlines. KPMG is primarily performing all work remotely with the ability to come on site as needed. And they once again are using the assistance of internal audit for portions of the work. We will begin our weekly status updates next week to ensure we stay on target for issuing financial statements next month. Lastly, I'd just like to inform the board that we are in the beginning stages of looking for a replacement of our financial system, J.D. Edwards. The process has started with an RFI that was issued last week. The purpose of the RFI is to gain insight into what's available in the market from a functionality perspective, given it's been several years since we looked to replace our financial system. This will be a multi-year project, and I just wanted to make the board aware that the process is starting and we'll provide further updates as we get closer to issuing an RFP. That concludes my report.
Kim, this is Tal, are there cost projections for the change? Are we thinking about what it's going to cost us to?
Not yet. We're hoping to gain some insight during this RFI process, just to see what's out there, kind of get an idea from a functionality perspective of what we need. We'll also be considering the implementation of PM Web on the construction side and how some of that functionality that existed in the current financial system may no longer need to be tied to our replacement system. So we're going to do a very thoughtful process to try to identify what it is that we exactly need. We've identified an internal resource that's going to lead this project since it will be a multi-year project. And we also will take a look at whether or not we want to also bring in some consultants at some point to kind of help us migrate the system over.
Well, good luck. Hang in there.
Yeah. Thank you.
Mr. President?
Thank you, Ms. Ellis. We now move to Steve's report. Steve Carroll, construction.
Good morning. Quick update on the construction division for the month of May. As Ruben mentioned in his earlier statements, the DOH lab is now moving forward, at least from a reprogramming perspective. We, along with our design build team, Turner, Gilbane, and HOK are pushing forward. Along with DOH, we've been conducting weekly meetings to really get started on the reprogramming of the space, which was really necessary, due to some changes within DOH, some of which were related to the global pandemic. So we are on top of that and trying to get our arms around what exactly this new space needs to entail based on some past lessons learned. As far as the Office of Mental Health, just a couple of quick updates on several developments and a few major projects for DASNY. I'll start with the Mid-Hudson Forensic Project. DASNY recently received notice to move forward with the design development phase. That's the 60% design phase of the $300 million project following a value engineering exercise. The exercise was necessitated by a cost overrun on the 30% design. We feel that we've remedied that issue, and our design team is now moving forward with 60% design. Following 60%, we'll take another look at the cost of the project and ensure that we're aligned with the project's budget. And out in Western New York, the Western New York Children's Project, we received bids in for this $30 million project. The bids were in excess of the construction budget by approximately 30%. That said, OMH has directed DASNY to move forward with the award of the project following securing additional funding for the project. So that was good news for us. And OMH. On the Gozer side, the September 2022 deadline is looming, and DASNY and our contract forces are really pushing hard to complete as many projects as possible by September. A few of the tougher projects are showing some signs of progress, which is good news. And that being said, we have developed a list of projects that we feel will not be complete by the September 22 deadline, and we've made Gozer aware of the same. Quickly over to West Point, 2 bridge structures that were started back in the fall of 2021 have reached completion. In addition, there's a number of other projects that I'd like to give a very brief update on. Design is complete on a 3rd bridge project, and a cost was provided to West Point for that project, and we're hoping that funding can be secured shortly. We do feel, though, that that project will not reach construction until the spring of 2023. We're also doing a building study. A site visit and inspection was performed on April 27th, which included a hazardous material survey and roof replacement. The report should be provided in a couple of weeks, and the plan is for this study to lead to a roof replacement project for DASNY. There's also a retaining wall project we're working on down there. Full design has been completed and construction proposals have been provided to West Point, and they are hoping funding can be assigned this year, but again, we're looking at more than likely a 2023 spring start. And lastly, there's a rock slide project down at West Point, Williams Road. The design proposal has been provided to West Point for the rock slide project at Williams Road, and the proposal is under review by West Point at this time. So lots of activity down there at the Academy, and we look forward to taking on some more of that work. Lastly, on the SUNY side, there's a number of updates. The 15 summer projects will begin as soon as this coming Monday, May 16th, with work at the University of Buffalo, Brockport, Geneseo, Alfred, Albany, and several other locations. In addition, the $42 million UAlbany rehabilitation project of 2 low-rise residence halls and the creation of a fitness center will be commencing by the end of this month. I'm actually signing the LOI for the general contractor today to get them moving on that project. At SUNY New Paltz, the $43 million renovation of a Wasting Hall that consists of adding 1 floor of living space and a full gut rehab has begun pre-construction work. Physical construction should be commencing by the end of this month. FIT's $198 million project is advancing through steel erection with progress up to the 6th floor of 10 floors at this time. The project is reported to be slightly behind schedule, but with a year and a half to go, we feel the lost time can be made up. And lastly, Alfred Mackenzie Hall Phase 3A work is being advanced by the project's surety replacement contractor with the deadline approaching. Phase 3B should be advancing directly thereafter. And lastly, as Ruben noted, the construction division has been ramping up on the efforts associated with the OCM program. Lots more to come in the near future. That concludes my report. I'll take any questions if there are any.
Hey,
Thanks, Steve. Questions for Steve?
Steve, I'm sure you guys saw it, or maybe not yet, but the DOB issued their bulletin last night on the filing deadlines for the new code from 14 to 22. In the city, I think you have like till November. So,
Jerry, you're gonna have to explain what that means. Filing codes 1422. What are you asking? Forgive me.
There's the 14 code and then there's the 22 code that goes into effect in November. But in order to, if you're planning a design right now and you're designing it under the 14 code, you have to get that filed by sometime in the middle of November. Otherwise, you're getting kicked into the 22 code.
I see. Okay. All right.
And now those designations 14 and 22, that's 2014 and
Right,
2022. Those are,
yes.
They keep coming out with new codes based on lessons learned. We're aware of that, Jerry, thank you. And we have made our customer agencies that work in New York City aware of the same. And we'll try to sneak as much in by that deadline as we possibly can.
Good luck. Good luck. Thank you, Jerry. Are there other questions for Steve? There being none, I think we're, let me check.
Nadine now.
Nadine is next on the agenda. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Board Chair, and good morning, everybody. During the last board meeting, I updated the board on the fact that we were able to recruit several new members of the legal team, which was very important in light of several transitions and restructuring that occurred when I first started in my position. And so I'm glad to now introduce the 3 new attorneys that have been added to the team in no particular order, but they're all excellent attorneys and I'm very happy to have them as part of the team. I will start with, because I see Valerie there, Valerie Himilewski, who is now our new managing counsel in construction. Just want to give everybody an opportunity to give you a brief description of their backgrounds so that the board members have an opportunity to meet them. So Valerie, let's start with you. Can you just introduce yourself and provide a brief description of your background?
Thank you, Nadine. Good morning, everyone. I'm Valerie Himilewski, and I have over 25 years experience with public contracting and construction. I have served for multiple public entities, primarily related to the city of New York. I have served as the counsel to the Department of Design and Construction, the New York City Economic Development Corporation, the Department of Sanitation, the Conflicts of Interest Board, and I also served as General Counsel and Agency Chief Contracting Officer for the Office of Payroll Administration. Just before coming to DASNY, I had been working for PSEG Long Island, which is the utility that operates the electric transmission and distribution system for Long Island on behalf of the Long Island Power Authority, state authority, as you know. And I managed their compliance with their hazard. They had about $2 billion worth of hazard mitigation funding for resilience improvements to the system, and also public disaster grants for storm response. So I managed the compliance team over there. I find construction issues endlessly fascinating. I've been doing this for 25 years, and there's always something new that comes up to keep it all interesting. So I am very happy to be here at DASNY and working with this team on the portfolio of DASNY's projects.
Valerie, thank you Tal Carney, thank you very much. Sounds like we might have been lucky to get you. You've done a whole lot of work in New York, but of course you've done it for 25 years, so you've had a little time to get it done. Thank you.
Yeah.
And next, sitting next to her is Dwight Flynn, who's a managing counsel in corporations, corporate counsel.
Hi, everyone. It's a genuine pleasure to be here. Again, my name is Dwight Flynn. I've been an attorney in our state with the state of New York for almost 20 years. Very quickly, my background started with, generally it's economic development. I started with state parks, where I was their contracts attorney as well as their civil rights attorney. Where I moved on to the lottery, where I was essentially one of two attorneys in the lottery. So, assisting with everything from, what would eventually become the casinos, we called them racinos back then, to Mega Millions and so forth, just making sure that the process was moving forward, increasing in fair. Well, I knew the guy who made up the numbers. I tell you, you could buy a ticket, but that's about as far as I can get you.
Did you do OTB?
No, I went there and I had about as much luck as anyone else.
I hear you.
So afterwards, I was, again, blessed to join Higher Ed Service Corp, where, among other things, I was their deputy counsel, helped run the legal office and the legal affairs of the agency. That agency is really all about, the financing higher education in the state of New York, as well as debt servicing and so forth. So I did that for a number of years, and as well as certain grant programs like the Gear Up program, which seek to help at-risk adults and children get into college. We moved on from there and went to Empire State Development, where I spent a number of years as Vice President and Chief Compliance Officer for the MWBE program. Primarily tasked with two things. Number one, first getting the agency and the state to 20%. So we had 97 agencies that fell under my portfolio. And secondly, making sure those numbers were clean, right? So we were able to do that with the gracious help of the team, the executive chamber, and all of the peoples in all of those agencies that did the yeoman's work of every day, thankless work of every day, of making sure that real economic development and fairness was forefront in their minds. And along that process, I was asked to consult with the nascent statute that hadn't been passed yet for cannabis. I was able to do so on the social equity and economic development side. The law got passed. I was asked to join the Social Equity Committee, where I was blessed and lucky enough to meet Ruben, who, as a sort of guiding light, mentor, and so forth. I learned a lot about the process as, of sort of, standing up a new organization and helping it survive, when really your goal is to sort of create fairness in the system from the ground up. And was blessed to ask by him to join the team at DASNY. And I've been here now since December and hope to be able to do whatever the good works are that we need to do.
Dwight, it's Al Carney again. Your background, civil rights, civil justice, the work you did with the ESD, minority development, minority economic development, and finally OCM and now DASNY, OCM, social equity. The outlier is your work on the lottery board, and I was just curious to know how you fell into that. What happened?
Well, I've always been interested in education, from financing to frankly to just make sure that access and fairness is there. The second in command of Parks became the head of the lottery and asked me to join, and I was happy to do so.
Terrific. I was just curious. It's an outlier in your history, but one that obviously has given you. You and I'll have to get to the racetrack at some point.
But at the time, though, you really set up the racinos. I mean, that was sort of a whole different branch. It was almost like sort of like this different program.
within lottery.
Yeah,
It
it
was a
was.
really major accomplishment when they did that, Al, the whole Racino.
Yeah.
Involved again, my RA and the whole, it was a very complicated setup, so.
I was happy to be a part of that.
Dwight, it's a pleasure to meet you. Thank you.
Thank you, Arno.
And last but certainly not least is our new managing counsel in finance, Mike Logan.
Thanks, Nadine. So I have a little bit less experience. I have 10 years of experience working as bond counsel. My first job out of law school was working at Hodgson Russ out of Buffalo as bond counsel, and I was able to work as DASNY's bond counsel on TELP transactions and some of the libraries and BOSI deals. And I even worked here as a consultant during that period on the SAM grants push in 2016 and 2017, and had the pleasure of working with Sarah Richards and with Dina on the bond transactions, which was an excellent experience. And then I moved over to Harris Beach, which handled some of the larger DASNY transactions, and that was also an excellent experience. And I was lucky enough to get a call from Ricardo as position opened up, and decided to jump on it, and I've been here since December. It's really been excellent. The other half of my position when I was in private sector was general obligation bonds, representing school districts and counties, cities, villages, towns. So that was about 50% of the work that I did. And then the revenue side for local authorities, airports, worked with the Port of Albany and the Albany Airport, as well as the DASNY transactions, EFC, for the state level. So I've been in public finance my entire career, and this is my second career. I was a teacher for 4 years out of my bachelor's degree, and that was in South Florida, but I'm originally from Buffalo, so I came back to go to the University of Buffalo, and that's how I ended up here in Albany. And it's been a pleasure working here.
You left South Florida to come back up here? I accept, and we're
It's weather related.
Right.
Al, I consider that a sign of intelligence.
Thank you.
But you live in Buffalo, so what do you know about intelligence? John, it's a pleasure.
I'm going to ignore that. I'm going to.
It's a
I resemble
pleasure.
that remark.
Yeah, I knew you were going there. I knew that. It's a pleasure to meet the three of you, Nadine. These men and women appear. You have filled several niches, and that's terrific for us. Good luck to the three of you. Nadine, keep us. I hate the expression "keep us posted." I'm not going to use that, but keep us informed. If there are reasons to put any of these three folk in front of the board, don't hesitate to do that. We'd love to do it.
And I don't want to diminish any of their experience. The DASNY legal team was great when I started, but these three individuals, as soon as they started, they hit the floor running. They've been a fantastic addition to the team. So I just wanted to make sure that I highlighted that. I mean, Mike said that he only has 10 years of experience, but it was a seamless transition when he started. The same with Valerie and Dwight. So I just wanted to echo again how happy and pleased I am to have them a part of the team.
Well, thank you for bringing them to us. Thank you for making them a part of your house, which is important. Mike, I'll look forward to working with you. I'll look forward to working with you, Dwight and Valerie, but it'll be interesting to see just how this all develops. Nadine, what a great series of decisions. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. The next item, I just wanted to remind the board members of their FDS filing. If you have not done it yet, it's due on Monday. So just a little bit of homework there to be done.
Oh God.
Jesus. Due Monday, so just make sure you get that done.
Thank
Yes,
you,
ma'am.
Nadine, because I was looking for the email, so thank you.
It's
Jeez.
yeah.
It's due on Monday?
Yes, so it's technically due on Sunday, but because the deadline falls on a Sunday, it's pushed over to Monday.
But is this the form, Nadine, that how you say that? It self-populates?
Yes. Yeah, you could use.
I can just use what I used last year unless there are changes.
exactly, exactly. It'll just if there have been any updates or changes. Yeah.
You have no idea how grateful I am to be reminded. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Did they make any changes to that, Nadine? I thought they created like another agency.
Yes. They have they're still, the requirements are still similar, but they changed the composition of the board. So that is something that was a recent addition and change in the budget this year. And also changed the name, which escapes me at the present moment, but
so it's a J-COPE document.
Correct.
Okay, all right. So that's how I get there.
Mhm.
Nadine,
I will resend. I will make sure that we resend the reminder to everyone at the board after this meeting, so that you have the link so you can go directly to complete the form.
You've just saved my life. There's a $250 fine for being late on that thing.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Let's take it out of our payout.
Yeah, well, yeah, they could do that, which means we owe them money.
And for the remainder of my report, I think we are moving to executive session for that.
Thank you, Nadine. Are we ready to go there yet?
Yes, sir.
Mr. President, do we have anything else? Want to make sure that the staff knows that we're going to go into executive session, do a few things, come out of executive session, and then adjourn immediately. So there is no reason for you all to hang around if you don't have a reason to. Everybody go back to work.
Keep you in the loop there, right?
Right, so after the motion is made to go into executive session for an allowable reason, the rest of the staff will drop off. The board members, as I understand it, it'll be all the board members, Ruben, Paul, and Nadine will be in executive session. Everybody else will drop off.
Can we keep Ricardo? I'd like for you to stay as well, if you would.
Thank you.
So we've got Ruben, Paul, Nadine, and Ricardo.
Okay.
Plus the board.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Romsky
We'll need
stepped
the
out for a
motion.
second, but I'll let you know when he gets back on, and I will check to make sure everyone in the public is off. Thank you.
Do
We will just need a motion to go into executive session.
Do we have
Make a motion to go.
vote?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Do we have a quorum for the vote to go into executive session, Sarah?
Yes.
Okay,
Okay.
then let's do that. May I have a motion?
Yeah,
Go to
I make a
executive
motion to move to executive session, Janice.
And Joan, I second.
Well, there's some words we need to use to get that done. To discuss the financial and credit history of particular corporations, proposed pending or current litigation, and the employment history of persons or matters leading to the appointment, employment, promotion, demotion, discipline, suspension, dismissal, or removal of particular persons. Janice, thank you for your motion. Joan, thank you for your second. May I get a vote? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? We are in executive session. Thank you, Mr. President, for putting us back on the record. Let the record indicate that the board members have just left a closed session during which no decisions were made except to return to the public session. Is there any other business to come before this board today? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please, to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Thank you very much, Beryl. Second?
Second.
Thank you, John. All in favor, please indicate with aye. Aye.
Aye.
There, assuming there are none opposed and that there are no abstentions, this meeting is adjourned.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Al.
Thank you all very much for coming.